With 10,000 Americans turning 65 years of age every day in America, more than half don't know how much they'll need for retirement. This is Retire with Integrity with your host, Brian Bowen.
We've seen some gleaming things on your tax return that you can take advantage of. We'll tell you. I mean, we're not here to keep everything a secret.
With more than 20 years in the financial planning industry, Brian brings his creative solutions for income creation, growth, and the protection of retirement assets.
There's so much free information out there today about investment advice. A lot of the information is fragmented and disconnected.
Brian has been a contributor to Forbes, CNN, Fortune, Money.
We help you prepare for a successful retirement, or if you already retired, help you stay retired successfully.
Now, helping you confidently navigate the retirement planning process, this is Retire with Integrity with Brian Bowen.
Hey, welcome to the show. You found us, Retire with Integrity, brought to you by Integrity Financial Planning with Brian Bowen. He is the president and founder of Integrity Financial Planning. I just shine his shoes. Kidding. I'm Brett Sharp. 866 to plan for 866-TO-PLAN and the number 4. On today's show, scientists think they figured out the absolute maximum number of years a person can live. Now that you're approaching retirement age, do you still feel comfortable investing in the stock market? And we'll talk about the latest wrinkle in President Biden's proposed tax hikes. But first, if you're nearing retirement, I'm sure you're liking this bull market, but you're also probably asking how much longer can it last?
Right.
A piece in MarketWatch warns that future returns are likely to be mediocre. If that's true, Brian, how do we make sure that those mediocre returns don't torpedo our retirement income?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you look back at the last 10 years and you go, wow, this thing did 10, 12%. And I'm telling clients, let's just try to cut that in half. Let's not realistically expect that going forward.
Managing expectations.
I don't see it. We were coming out of the 2008, 2009 recession. We haven't had a recession since then. And technically, since they started recording recessions, Federal Reserve, I think 1913, when they started recording recessions, there's been one every 7 years. So we're a little overdue.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not
That's a scary thought.
I know, it is. There's always the booms and then there's the busts, right? And so we've got a boom right now. Real estate is on fire, as you know, right? And so is the stock market isn't as on fire right now.
I keep waiting for it to go down. It stayed above 23,000 for a long time.
Right. Yeah. So you've got issues, though, with thinking that it's going to be like this forever. Right. I'm just going to get 15% returns or 12% returns every year. And so you've got to really, and actually there's some time periods. You look at the Dow over 20 some years, there's a lot of spots there where it's 4 or 5%, 20 years. That's going to make and break some people's retirement. So a lot of people are retiring early with not enough money. That's the biggest problem I think I see. They're coming in here with under, $500,000 thinking, oh, I got plenty of money. They don't have any pensions. Their Social Security's not big. And it's hard for me to tell them, but I don't think you're going to have enough, right? And so what do you do about that? Well, you either work longer, take more risk in the market. What other thing can you do? There's tax planning things you can do, but you can't really. And if the folks live well below their means, then it can happen, right?
Once upon a time, $500,000 sounded like a ton of money.
It did, yeah.
It doesn't go as far.
It's not. They're selling boats, you can go to Smith Mountain Lake, you'll see boats running around there for $150,000, $175,000.
Yeah, a bass boat's $70,000, $80,000, $90,000.
Right. Yeah. So those wake surf boats that are flying around there that's a house.
Right.
My first house was $90,000.
Right.
It's a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Yeah. So it's.
But $500,000 sounds like a lot, but if you're going to live to be 85 and you're going to stretch that amount of money,
it's hard. No, the math is really a struggle for folks because they go, well, if I took 4%, that's $20,000. I get Social Security between my wife and myself was, there's another $30,000. So I got $50,000. I'm good. Well, you got to pay taxes on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's assuming that you can take 4%. What if the market declines for 7 years? Your account values will go down. There's something called sequence of returns, and this article isn't really talking about that. But we talk about sequence of returns when you are, let's say you retired in 2 years, and everything was still cooking with gas like it is now, and then all of a sudden the market just tanks. And you are taking out income, and there's a -10, a -20, another -15, 3 years in a row. You're taking income out. You retired, remember? You're fishing every day.
Yeah, you've done it now.
Right.
Now you've made the move. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not
Now
going
you're
back.
stuck. Yeah.
So you're taking an income when it's dropping in value. It's called sequence returns. They're actually teaching it in financial planning colleges all over the country now because it's a real problem. It's like, okay, the math, you start looking at it and you go, wow, you never recover from it. And it's not a fear-mongering thing. We can show you 18 different ways to show you it. You can have a really good rate of return, still get 8% rate of return, but you ran out of money. Who doesn't want 8, 9% rate of return, right? But if the market went up the same year, same time, right, you retired, and you still got that 8% over that 20 years, you were so successful.
Yeah.
But it's just all timing. Do you know if it's going to be a bull market or a bear market and you retire?
Well, no, I mean, nobody knows.
Right. Yeah. And that's the point, I think, of this article is like, well, are we coming up on that? And all these people are seeing their account balances go up. I'm finally there. I can finally retire. That's what happened in 2008. A lot of people had to go back to work.
I hate to feel pessimistic, but I keep waiting for the stock market to just crash. I really do. I know that sounds terrible, but I keep waiting for it to go down.
Yeah, don't wish it, okay?
Yeah, thanks. The Fed says all these higher prices we're paying are to be expected because the economy is returning to normal. Allianz economist Mohammed El-Arian tells CNBC he's concerned that the Fed is heading into uncharted territory.
What worries me is the inflation side. What I'm seeing suggests it's not simply transitory, and the last thing we need is the Fed to slam on the brakes further down the road. We have no historical experience where the Fed has been late and we haven't ended up in a recession. That's what worries me. I don't think inflation is transitory, and I worry about the Fed being late in responding.
So if inflation is not transitory, that means it's here to stay. It's a long time problem.
Yeah, I mean, they got to stop printing money out of thin air and giving it to people that aren't working. I mean, I'm sorry to be so bold, but we're just printing it out and giving it everywhere. And it's like the Fed has to stop. The United States government has to stop. Inflation is here right now.
Yep.
It's not like, oh, well, I think we're going to have inflation. No, go buy a house or try to build a house. We're in the middle of, we're probably in the next month or two going to get bids on our new office building. And I'm talking to some contractors and they're like, you better sit down when you get these bids. It's not us. Our labor rates are about the same. Mm-hmm. The materials are through the roof.
Yep.
And so that's inflation. And it's here. And so you've got the same wage. Did you get a big bonus in the last year or two? No.
No, but inflation got it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I think what he's saying is that the Fed does have to. Now, what does that mean to you? You have to invest your money. We see so many times folks that come in with, we call it lazy money, just sitting around not doing anything. 200 here, 300, 500. We've seen up over $1 million sitting in cash for years. In cash, money market, right? It could be in an account like at Fidelity, Vanguard, Charles Schwab, or some bank brokerage, but it's not invested. You know why? They don't know what to do.
Well, you told me. You was like, what's that cash doing? What are you doing with that? I was like, it's in my account. And you were like, okay, can we do something with that?
Yeah,
we need to do something with that.
What you're doing is allowing the bank to borrow it out to someone else so they can make money off of you. That's what the bank does. They love you. And that's exactly what the banking model. But you need to take that money and invest it conservatively because that's kind of your...
No, actually, you need to do that for me.
Well, right. But I'm saying invest it. It's still yours, right? Your decision. Right. But the point is that cash can invest and be working for you. It's passive income.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a beautiful thing. People are like, oh, I bought real estate. It's so passive. It's real easy. I've had investment real estate. There's nothing passive about it.
No, it's hard work. There's a lot of work to do.
There's a lot of work to real estate. You buy it and you got all the paperwork. You close on it, then you got to get contractors in there to clean it, or you're doing it yourself. Then if it's a rental property, you got to get renters. And then when you sell it, you got to go through the whole process again with the paperwork issues. Then so it's not.
The only real passive income is if you write a song or a book.
Yeah.
You just release it, and then you just get the royalty. That's what you need to write a book, dude.
Yeah, that's
just write a book.
I'll do that in my spare time. Yeah, I've been told by that like 10 times. You need to write a book. And I just look at it and people are like, you're crazy, right? I don't have time for that. The point is that, inflation is a real problem, and you've got to come up with a plan to figure out. We have a stress test in our financial planning software. We can go in there and we hit a stress test, and then we show inflation goes up by 2 or 3%. A lot of folks run out of money because of inflation. Mm-hmm. And it's like this hidden tax that nobody can do anything about, right? I mean, you can't control it. Oh, and then, of course, you turn on the radio.
It's unpredictable. I mean,
It is.
I know it can be predicted a little bit,
but that's why you have to get every dollar working for you, right? And you have to get it working in the right tax manner. That's the other problem. I mean, every single person that pretty much comes in here, we're like, no, stop saving there, save it here. Stop saving there, save it here. Why are you going to take advantage of your 401k benefits at your spouse's work? I don't know. We just never did it. Okay. Start putting 26 grand in there. You got $500,000 sitting in cash in the bank that's not doing anything for you. Fund your 401k. Now that money's growing tax-free. And those are the kind of things that you can help keep up with inflation. There are things you can do. You can't fix the government or the Federal Reserve, right? But you can control your little world and your own little finance world.
Allianz.
And
Arian.
Yeah, you said it.
I did. I got it.
That was pretty good.
Let me tell you what I do know how to pronounce. I know how to pronounce Integrity Financial Planning.
That was good.
You're talking about building the house. You're kind of the foundation of the house with this retirement blueprint plan. I mean, you're kind of laying the foundation. You're kind of pouring the concrete of the foundation.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, if you're going to build the dream home, right? I know you've never built a custom home before, have you?
Nope.
Yeah. So, but
why? I'll buy what's already built.
Exactly. Yeah, I haven't either. But if you did build, let's say, $1 million dream home, you're like, this is it. This is the one, right? Let me ask you this. Would you actually just go to your one contractor after your recent contractor experience that you've had?
No.
You don't.
And if you're listening, I'm sorry, but no, I'll interview 4 different contractors.
Right.
Yeah.
4 or 5. Yeah, we're going to get a ton of bids on this building. We're going to send them out as many as we can. Now, are they all going to respond? Are we going to interview every single one of them? But no, we're going to have a lot to compare, right? And be able to feel comfortable with that decision moving forward. And we had a gentleman call in. He had saved a few $1 million, and he'd been with this guy forever. And he said, "I'm not getting any tax planning advice. I'm just not getting nothing. I'm not getting anything. That's why I want to come in to see you." And then he said, and then he canceled his appointment. Said, I'm not really. I don't think I'm ready. I really like our guy. I was like, so you had $1 million home. I use the analogy. Your $1 million home, you're going to just trust the one contractor?
Dude. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
For your entire retirement, for the rest of your life, there could be something that could greatly impact it, and you're not going to find out about it.
Talk to somebody else. Talk to Brian. Talk to somebody else. Just talk to someone. A complimentary retirement blueprint is what we offer here. If you're interested and if you've saved at least $500,000 toward your retirement, here's the number to call: 866-2-PLAN-4, 866-TO-PLAN, and the number 4. There's a new wrinkle to one of President Biden's proposed tax hikes. We'll talk about it after the break.
Everywhere you look, there is someone who wants to help manage your money. From the next door neighbor who's studying to get his insurance license to the brother-in-law who thinks he's going to get rich by day trading. They all know exactly what you should do with your money, except that they don't know. If you're looking for real answers, call Brian Bowen and his team at Integrity Financial Planning. They'll help you design a comprehensive strategy for achieving your financial goals. Call 866-866-5264 or go online at financialplanningva.com.
Retire with Integrity is on your radio, brought to you by Integrity Financial Planning with Brian Bowen, right here in the flesh. President and founder of Integrity Financial Planning. Want to get a hold of us, 866-2-PLAN-4, 866-TO-PLAN, and the number 4. Ferris Buellers Day Off turns 35 this week. It was one of the top grossing movies of 1986 and has since become a classic. Matthew Broderick says just about every day someone comes up to him and says, "Hey, Ferris, is this your day off?" That would get annoying after a while, I would think.
Yeah, no kidding.
They're like, come on, man. Fun fact, Ben Stein, who has a degree in economics, ad-libbed his entire lecture on the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. You know what that act is?
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's a great act.
If I don't know, you're not going to tell me. So Columbia University has agreed to pay a multi-million-dollar settlement for allowing its retirement plan administrator to charge excessive fees. I've seen several similar stories. What's the deal with these retirement plan fees, Brian Bowen?
So retirement plan meaning a 401k, 403b, your employer, right?
Yeah.
When they're talking about this. Columbia University is paying $13 million to settle a lawsuit over excessive retirement plan fees.
Wow.
So the settlement also calls for Columbia to take competitive bids for running its 403b retirement plan, to use lower cost mutual fund shares, and to prohibit its record-keeping firm from using plan participants' information to sell other financial products. So a lot of these universities will give out the information to financial advisors so they can get in there and sell more products, right, and make more revenue.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just pointing out Columbia University. This happens all the time. I see stuff that blows me away. I mean, Yokohama Tire here in town, we were looking at their plan, and I think back then they had like 10 million. This is many years ago. And they had A share and B share mutual funds, and it was just
$10 million what?
$10 million in their 401k plan. That include their pension.
Okay.
We had a client that came in the office, and I'm like, these are A share mutual funds? Are you kidding me? This is stuff you see at Edward Jones and like someone's account that has $50,000 or $100,000 because the fees are extremely excessive, and the expense ratios were high. And I just go, what is going on here? And so you see that kind of stuff, and then eventually this happens. An attorney gets wind of it.
Yeah.
Class action lawsuit.
Those little digging. Yeah.
Right. And then they sue them. And so because they're not doing the right thing, you're a fiduciary. We have a 401k plan, right? My offerings to my employees are, here's some low cost offerings. Vanguard, they're called passive mutual funds, right? The costs are 0.03, 0.05, very low cost.
Yeah.
On $1 million, you're paying nothing.
Yeah.
But you also can offer other type of mutual funds if somebody want to get into a more what is called an actively traded mutual fund, right? So there's a human managing the fund. A passive mutual fund is basically, it's an index fund, right? It's buying the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ.
Okay. Yeah.
Buying the Barclays Aggregate Bond Index. It's just an index. And just kind of watches the trend. That's why it's so cheap. But what they have found in studies over and over and over and over again, 80% of those index funds have outperformed the actively traded mutual funds that are 200 to 300% more expensive.
Yeah.
Did you hear me? 200 to 300% more expensive.
Wow.
So that's the funny thing. It's like you go to, if I bought a truck, right? We went down to go look at a truck. I know you drive a Tundra and you're like, Brian, I'm ready for the new Tundra.
Yeah.
And are you willing to pay, I don't know, what does a Tundra cost? 60? It's probably 60 grand for a fully loaded limited with all the goodies, right? So are you willing to pay $180,000 for the same truck? That's probably going to do a similar thing. And 80% of the time, it's actually not going to do as well.
See, that particular analogy really connected with me just now.
Who in their right mind is paying $180,000 for a truck?
Right.
No one is, but we're doing it in a retirement plan, and we're blind to it. And a lot of times it's because of the blind relationship. Like a gentleman came in, it was probably a few months ago, 3 or 4 months ago. He's like, I'm not paying any fees because we said, we'll do a fee analysis for you. My advisor, he's great. They don't have any fees. Well, who's he with? Wells Fargo. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. Right. Let's take a look. Let's look under the hood. I mean, it's just like when you call the mechanic, hey, I got this noise, he's like, just bring it in.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong.
Yeah.
So he comes
I'll
in.
diagnose it for you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they laugh at you when you start making noises over the phone because they're like, I don't know, just bring the dumb car.
Oh, yeah, I know what that is.
Oh, yeah, it's got to be the transmission.
That's your mandibular strip. Yeah.
Right. So the point is he brings his statements in. Lynn goes through all the first meeting. We go through the analysis in our investment team meeting, and we look at it. And there's like $25,000 in fees in his accounts. To the guy that has no fees.
Yeah.
I don't have any.
I don't have any fees.
There's no fees in there.
Yeah.
And it's not that the fees were bad because they are doing a purpose, right? They are paying him so he can get advice. The problem with the financial fees inside a retirement plan is that they're not getting any advice. They don't get any advice. You've been through where the retirement plan and they go, check the box for large cap stock. And you spend 5 minutes with you choosing what you should have in your 401k. But there's no real advice. Should you get a will or a trust? Should you transfer the deed of your properties to bypass probate? Should you, redo your insurances and get living benefits, better coverage for the same cost, right? What about tax planning? Should you be saving in the right places? Where are you saving? Should you sell this real estate and buy another piece of real estate to accelerate depreciation? I mean, there's so many different ways to make your dollars go, but they're paying sometimes 1%, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not getting any advice. So, and that's the thing. People are like, financial advisors are so expensive. But if you're not getting advice, you shouldn't really pay a lot. But we have people coming from Vanguard or they're paying, and they're like, I'm going to have to pay the fees. Yeah, because we're actually going to do a lot of work. We calculated it. We had a client. He said, I don't know if I want to pay the fees anymore. And we went back estimated how much time we'd spent in the first year with just him and his wife, and they have a business too, but we literally have spent about 66 hours
Oh my gosh.
of our time. We didn't realize because we don't track it on a daily basis.
A work week and a half.
Right.
A whole week and a
but
half.
that was
work
split out here, here, and here. 20 minutes here, hour here, 2 hour
And that's
meeting.
not just one person either.
No, it's two. It's a couple,
Yeah.
right? But I'm just saying.
No, I mean that's working on that account.
Oh, right. No, it's my whole team.
Right.
Our CPA's time.
Yeah.
Right. Our tax assistant that was helping file the tax returns to doing tax planning for them, sitting down, talking about their estate plan, their will, getting their power of attorneys updated because they've been done in 30 years, right? Their business tax planning, all this stuff. I mean, it takes a lot of work. Really? You think did they spend 66 hours with you at the 401k? No, and they can't. They actually can't. They're not really financial planners. They might be licensed as an investment advisor, but they can give you some suggestions. Hey, Brett, because your age, you should probably put 30% in a bond portfolio to help minimize the losses because you're kind of getting old. Well, I mean, I don't think you're getting old. But.
Thanks, buddy.
But they might say that because, they see, oh, hey, you're saying you want to retire in a few years. They're going to, hey, you better, scale down on the risk, right?
Yeah.
That's about it, which you can kind of get that in a Forbes article, I think, or, Money Magazine, right?
Yeah, right. Well, that's what Brian was talking about earlier was get a second opinion. It doesn't have to be Brian, but let's see what those fees are. Let's see those fees. Have somebody else look under your hood. That probably didn't come out very well, did it? I don't think you want to say look under your hood.
I used that analogy earlier, so that's where you got it from.
So the second opinion service is something that Integrity Financial Planning offers, and if you're interested, you can call the number 866-2-PLAN-4, 866-TO-PLAN, and the number 4. So, Brian, President Biden is confirming reports that he wants his big capital gains tax hike to be retroactive to April of this year. CNBC's Robert Frank says that's not the way it's usually done.
There have been retroactive income tax increases before, but never have we had a retroactive capital gains tax increase. Treasury saying this was needed to prevent investors from avoiding the tax by selling before that tax hike takes effect. So all the planning that people were hoping to do or planning to do basically is null and void because if it goes through as proposed, it would start April 28th.
So is that true? There's no way to plan for this tax hike?
Well, there is. That's the thing that's funny about this. They're assuming that they're going to pay the tax. There is ways to avoid the tax or minimize or defer the tax. So those are the three strategies. Okay. Now, we're not going to go to every specific one, but he is right. If you were waiting to the end of the year to kind of see what was happening before you sold that real estate or sold that big stock that you had a large capital gain in, too late. They're going to make it retroactive, which is, I don't know, kind of, will not go down.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty
doesn't seem
sinister.
as silly and juvenile as it sounds. It doesn't seem fair. It's not fair.
Right. Yeah. So it's wrong, but it is what it is, right? They're trying to get as much revenue, which it's only going to hurt. It's actually going to create less revenue for the country, tax revenue. They don't understand it.
Yeah.
They will never understand it. A politician that has this agenda in their head will not understand that if you discourage people from making more money by increasing taxes will actually generate less revenue.
Yeah.
Every single time it's done it. You look at history. I've read financial history books about it. It's every single time they jack it up and all of a sudden they find another way. They don't sell it. They delay it. They don't grow the business, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So you're going to have less revenue. Why do you want that? Have a lower tax rate and then let people really generate the revenue. You're encouraged now. And
people covet their money too. They don't spend as much. I mean, it affects the economy now.
Right. Yeah. They're pulling back. Right. So businesses aren't able to grow. And, nobody's dumping money in a bunch of real estate. So there's some big ones that he didn't talk about, but the capital gains tax is one of them. The other one is a 1031 exchange. And that's what we have used personally and a lot of our clients over the years to defer. It's not really avoiding it. I was reading an article by this guy, just didn't know what he was talking about, but he made it sound like, Biden's going to get rid of the 1031 exchange, and it's a tax avoidance scheme. It's not any scheme. And it's not tax avoidance. It's tax deferral. You're just kicking the can down the road, but you don't have to pay the tax now, right? If you had $1 million gain on your apartment building or whatever it was, right, and you sold it, you could 1031 exchange and buy something else, $1 million or more, right, into another property.
Okay.
And you didn't pay the tax. And then the current way is, let's say you kept it and you passed it on to Noah, right? You said, oh, hey, I'm going to give this to Noah. It's yours. When you pass away, it gets a step up in basis. All that gain, let's say it was worth $2 million by the time you passed away at 120 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be
122.
120. Yeah. So then it's all gone. But Biden wants to get rid of that plan. And it's not just Biden, his whole administration, right? They want to minimize the tax on family generational wealth, right? So it's, again, all that demotivation is going to hurt our economy. So back to our first segment, we should be worried about the stock market because that will affect the stock market.
Well, Brian knows about the stock market. His team knows. Josh, the whole crew, Integrity Financial Planning. If you want a second opinion service, you want a complimentary retirement blueprint, they offer it. 866-to-PLAN-4, 866-TO-PLAN, and the number 4. Coming up, now that you're approaching retirement age, how much of your money should you continue risking in the markets? We'll talk about it when we come back.
Just an old-fashioned love song.
Welcome to the show, Retire with Integrity, brought to you by Integrity Financial Planning with Brian Bowen, president and founder of Integrity Financial Planning. Another story about a 3-dog night. On a cold night in Alaska, took 1 dog to keep a man warm. On an even colder night, it would take 2 dogs, and on the coldest night, it would be a 3-dog night. It's a true story.
Really?
I didn't make that up. Happy birthday to one of the lead singers of 3-Dog Night. Chuck Negron is celebrating his 79th this week. In addition to Old Fashioned Love Song, Chuck sang lead on several other of the group's biggest hits, including Joy to the World. Remember that one?
He sang Joy to the World?
Yeah, Jeremiah was a bullfrog.
No.
You don't remember that?
Uh-uh.
Well, maybe it's just my singing is what you don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know if I can,
I'm sorry,
connect
man.
with that one. Sorry.
So-called 529 plans were intended to be an easy way to save for your child's college education, but Barron's says they can also be used as a wealth transfer tool. Brian, are you a fan of that? Or do you think there are better ways to transfer money to a family member?
529s are... Some people are using them for different purposes, right? They're using them for their children or grandchildren. Most of our clients are in the stage of they have grandchildren, right? And they're looking at ways. They're like, Brian, I'm never going to spend this money. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I agree. You're not going to. So let's figure out a way to pass it to the next generation.
Yeah.
So 529 plan, if you put it in after-tax money, you don't, it grows tax deferred like everything does pretty much. And then you get tax-free if it's used for college education expenses, right? So it's a kind of a way to kind of shift it to the next generation. Now that's assuming that you're going to either have an estate tax issue, which most people don't. But more importantly, it's also better to have it in the grandparents' name because then the school, if it's in the parents' name, it gets counted against them. So, there's 529s are okay.
Why? I don't understand that. Why is that?
Well, so they go after the parents and the kids' 529 plans, right? So it gets counted against them as an asset. So they won't give them as much financial aid and gift aid at the college.
Okay.
So the FAFSA forms and the CSS profile forms get filled out. So you just got to be careful when you're doing college planning. Yeah. And this is kind of college planning we're talking about here for your children and grandchildren. But we're doing this kind of concept as a legacy plan, really. If you want to talk a wealth transfer tool, we're doing this all the time now. I mean, we have a couple that has one of their children is a very successful physician. One of their grandchildren has special needs. We're looking at ways to say, okay, we don't want to just necessarily have this asset just pass directly to your son, right? We want it to pass to your grandchild that has special needs, right? We want to make sure that this goes and avoids taxes on the way.
Yeah.
And continues to grow tax deferred and tax free. Is there a plan we can do? So we came up with a plan and say, hey, let's shift $100,000 a year over the next 5 to 10 years. And the idea is it's taking care of their one that they care the most about, their grandchild. At that point, they don't really care about the kid. I mean, come on. My parents would come over. I mean, I'm joking.
I know.
But my parents would come over to the house, I remember, and they would like walk right by us, right, and go to the kids.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, hey,
they get the hug first.
I'm chopped liver over here.
Yeah.
You know? What is this? So, but that's where it is.
I created this thing. Me first.
Right. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of gifting plans that you could do for your grandchildren and your children, which helps facilitate avoiding probate, reduces the size of your estate. So that's good. If Biden's going to decrease the estate tax to $3.5 million, that's going to hurt a lot of people that have saved well and invested well. So all these kind of techniques, they're little tiny techniques that are like constantly saying, okay, well, let's shift this. Let's do an irrevocable trust. Let's do 529 plan. Let's, whatever it may be, we're putting it together and to make sure that it passes on the next generation.
Let's convert to a Roth IRA. Am I learning something?
You're learning
Come
something.
on, give me some props.
I know, that was pretty good.
Thanks.
I mean, you only heard that 1,000 times. But, a converted IRA, the problem with that is it only goes for 10 years after the person passes away. So it's not a long time. What we're talking about, it's like saying, your daughter is, or your granddaughter's 10. What's their life expectancy? Long time.
70, 80, 90 years.
Yeah, 70, hopefully. 80 years at least. Right, hopefully, right? Given the averages. And so you go, can we shift it and grow tax-deferred and tax-free over their lifetime? Now we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax savings.
Yeah.
And more importantly, taking care of your grandchildren, who you absolutely love.
Yep. Brian, it's a common question for those of us nearing retirement age, and I say us, I got a little ways to go, but what percentage of our nest egg should we risk in the stock market? CNBC put that question to Fidelity's Gene Thompson.
The key thing to remember is that you could be in retirement for another 25 or 30 years. We find that most people underestimate their longevity. They actually don't believe that they're going to live until they're 90, and many will. So you still want to make sure that you're not too conservative. But if you're getting closer to retirement and the market's going down, you do want to keep tabs on it to ensure that you're not taking on too much risk or too little risk, because you do have another potentially 30 years to go.
Okay, so she says we shouldn't take on too much risk nor too little risk. I would rate her answer as not very helpful. Can you give us some better advice than that?
Well, we have this questionnaire that we send out, and we send it to prospective clients too, so you don't have to be a client, but it's really helpful because you go through about 10 questions, maybe. It's 15. Not very much. But the big ones are, you have $1 million in your account. Are you comfortable with a 25% drop in your portfolio, which would equal out to $250,000?
$250,000. No, absolutely not.
Okay, so what that does in the software is it says, okay, he's dropped down a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most aggressive, 1 being the most conservative.
Oh, I took this. I did this.
Yeah.
You sent this to me, right?
Yeah, you were like 11.
You were
like a riverboat gambler.
62%.
No, I don't know. I'll have to go back and look. I don't remember.
I was moderate.
Okay, so you're in the middle of the road, and that's very typical. But we've got folks that are 2s and 3s, and it's not a right or wrong answer. It's just they can't handle the risk. They don't. It's not that they're not.
So that's conservative on the scale.
Very conservative.
Right. 10 would be.
Yeah, we don't have any 10.
Riverboat gambler.
Nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had 7.5 and 8s.
Yeah.
But that's still high risk. That's more risk in the market than the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones. So if you're taking more risk than the market, everybody can take the risk when the money's growing. We all love it when it's going up.
Oh yeah.
It's just when it has a 35% drop in 3.5 weeks or whatever, and you're going, I just lost $350,000.
But it's kind of a wash if you've gained 400,000, then you drop 350,000.
True, but everybody only pays attention to what the highest number.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
So don't go back and because we've had that. We say, this account dropped in value. Like, actually, your rate of return is 12% the last couple of years since you've been with. But no, I've lost. It went down $50,000. I'm like, yeah, but that was a short-term loss, right?
Yeah.
You're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
It's a marathon. This isn't a sprint. And so educating folks about that. But it's hard to back into that because if you're not comfortable, we've had a client recently said, I'm uncomfortable with an 8% loss. I just can't do it. Okay. And I didn't sneer at him or make fun of him or, say, oh, that's wrong. You need to get more aggressive. That was him and his wife's answer. Because they don't want to lose 10%. That's too much for them.
Yeah.
Because what would they do?
That's kind of a lot, isn't it?
8%, not really. I mean, you know, if you're in the
the course of, over the marathon, it's not.
Well, I'm saying in a very short period of time. What the question is, what would you do if you lost 10%, 20%
Gotcha.
in one day?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's saying.
Okay.
And if you can't withstand a 8% loss, well, that means you're pretty conservative. And the funny thing is, once you dial that in, it actually makes everybody's life easier. Our clients are more at ease. Their expectations are also, because there's a bar graph that shows the higher the rate of return, right? It has a green graph bar that's going up. And once you get to 10%, it also, the loss gets bigger, right? It's like 10%, but you also can lose 25% in the next 6 months.
I gotcha.
So you want to take the risk? Okay. You want the big gains?
Yeah.
You also have the big losses.
That's a good visual.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
a very good. So, and then you get down, people go down to like 4 or 5% rate of return.
Yeah.
And then it's like 3 or 4% dropping.
They're like, okay, I'm there.
I'm good. Because it's either the bank that's zero, right? That's paying me nothing, and I don't have a loss, but I don't have any gain, or I can maybe get a decent rate of return. Maybe it's 4 or 5 or 6. There's nothing wrong with 4 or 5 or 6. I mean, you get 5% rate of return, your money's doubled every 14 years. That's not bad for the amount of risk that you have to take. You're not going to jump off a cliff, when the stock market collapses, even though we've had people do that. We've had some of our clients call and they're like, Brian, just get me out.
Yeah.
They're like so worried.
Chicken Little.
I'm like, you're in the most conservative portfolio. I mean, it's down like 2%. I mean, oh, okay. Well, I just saw that CNBC was saying that the stock market was down. I'm like, yeah, but you're not really in that stock market. You're in a lot of conservative fixed income bond funds. I mean, you're already in cash or whatever, right? And so that's the idea with making sure your risk tolerance is perfectly tight. And no one talks about maximum drawdown. I haven't seen now. The industry does. But the clients come in and go, hey, what's your maximum drawdown on your portfolio? I don't know. I mean, we probably lost a couple $100,000. People use numbers. They don't use percentages.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah. So it's
but more tangible to them, I think.
It is, but 30% on $1 million, right? You lost $300,000. You're comfortable doing that again? No. Okay, well, we need to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. And don't expect a greater rate of return than the stock market if you're going to take less risk in the stock market.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Say the visual aspect of it, when you had Hannah and me, my wife and I, in there, it's nice to see. It was, I'll admit, a little information overload, but you made me ask questions about myself and ourselves that we hadn't thought of before. And I think that's part of what the Complimentary Retirement Blueprint does for you, is make you ask questions of yourself. Right. Going, what do I want? You make people look at things differently than the way they've been taught from other financial advisors or planners or CPA, whatever it is. So I just think it's an amazing service. Complimentary Retirement Blueprint Plan. If you've saved at least $500,000 towards your retirement, call Brian and his crew at Integrity Financial Planning at 866-2-PLAN-4, 866-TO-PLAN, and the number 4. Coming up, scientists think they figured out the absolute maximum number of years a person can live. We'll tell you what that is when we come back.
When most of us were starting out, the conventional wisdom was to use a tax-deferred account to save for retirement. We figured that by the time we retired and started withdrawing that money, we'd be in a lower tax bracket. But it turns out that advice may not work anymore. With the government spending trillions of dollars on stimulus programs, many economists expect higher tax rates in the future. One possible solution to that is a Roth conversion, but you have to do it properly. Brian Bowen at Integrity Financial Planning can help you determine whether a Roth might help reduce your tax obligations in retirement. And if so, he'll help you with a rollover. Making the right tax moves can make or break your retirement. So, don't take any chances. Call Brian today at 866-TOPLAN and the number 4. That's 866-2-PLAN-4 to get started, or online at retirementplannow.com.
Another Pleasant Valley Sunday.
This hour flies by for me, man. It's a great show. Retire with Integrity, brought to you by Integrity Financial Planning with Brian Bowen, president and founder of Integrity Financial Planning. I learned a lot from you, man. I really do.
Well, that's good.
866-2-PLAN-4 is the number to call. 866-TO-PLAN. And the number 4. The Monkees recorded Pleasant Valley Sunday this week in 1967. Although it sounds like a happy song about enjoying a nice, friendly neighborhood, it's really just the opposite. It was written by Carole King and her then husband as a social commentary about how boring they thought it was to live in the suburbs. It was kind of a negative song. So we've got good news and bad news. The bad news is that according to a study in the journal Nature Communications, scientists think they've found the absolute limit to how long a person can live. The good news is that the limit is 150 years. 150. I'm not sure whether I want to live that long, but it would be nice to have the option, assuming that I'd have enough money to pay for it. Is that possible?
I think a lot of my clients are going to have to go back to work.
Right? Good grief.
150 years.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to make it. That's a good score, but I don't think I want to make it that high.
So I want to know who these scientists are that say that they've figured this all out.
Yeah,
right?
Ponce de Leon.
Have they ever gone outside a lab before?
It's a fountain of youth references.
I don't know. I mean, I think they say homies are never going to be able to live beyond 150 years. How do they know that? How do they really know?
I mean, do you know of one person who's ever lived that long? I mean,
no,
sometimes in our show prep we have 112 and 113.
But I think the Guinness Book, I think the oldest woman in the United States was 126.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, 126.
It's pretty
good.
Think
and they said, what's your secret? And I think she said she smoked cigars
vodka.
and vodka, I think.
I love her.
Went to McDonald's every day.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember. Yeah, they always say something really simple. There was there's a Japanese, and he was 120 something also, and they asked him what the secret was. He said sleep. He said, that's what it is. His secret is getting really good solid sleep.
After your show last weekend on the radio to the doctor, and I don't know who the doctor was, but they was like, you need 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, and I was like, oh, I am toast, man, because I get like 4.5 to 5 a night.
I know. But the biggest thing is the solid sleep, that
not the REM, not the rapid eye movement, but the deep sleep.
Deep sleep. Yeah. Right. Get into that really, and it's hard to get there.
That's when the good dreams happen.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, you can't do that when you're thinking about work and, everything is going on in your life. It's really hard to, I don't know. For me, it is. I used to do that in my 20s. I could sleep.
That's when you go. Train. That's when you go, let me go back to sleep. Megan Fox will be right back. Hang on. Let me get back to sleep.
Right.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that so it's interesting that humans are going to supposedly live longer, but the average life expectancy right now is at 78.
It's pretty healthy. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So
I would like to go a little longer than that. I got a lot of fishing left, but
yeah, I mean, you can do a lot at that age if you keep. See, that's the thing. I hate to talk about food and healthy and all that, but there's a lot of folks today that they save everything financially, right? But they're in really poor health and they're not going to enjoy their money that they save for.
Yeah.
They have saved too much because their life expectancy is short, right?
Yeah.
They didn't actually
take care of themselves.
Right.
Can you hang on? I need to go get another Swiss cake roll.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so I was talking about you, actually.
I know you were. In her book, Ready to Retire, sociologist Lindsay Green talks about how baby boomers can improve their chances of being happy in retirement. She interviewed one man who had a hard time making the transition from a life of work to a life of leisure.
He basically said, I went to bed employed and I woke up unemployed. And he said there weren't financial issues, but he said I walked all day. I literally didn't know who I was, what I was going to do. He said I knew I had to get out of the house or my wife was going to kill me. And then he used this interesting term. He said I knew I had to replace somehow the psychic income I got from work. And eventually he found his path. He got into volunteer work. He started some educational assignments, and now several years later he says he's a happily retired man who's very fully engaged and quite passionate about the things that he's found to actually replace work. But it was a struggle.
So obviously your primary focus is to be a financial advisor, but you sometimes find yourself helping clients deal with the emotional aspects of retirement?
Absolutely. I know. I never thought that I would be talking about their problems that's going on or whatever. I mean, I never thought if you would ask me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I've heard it all. I'm bored. I'm depressed.
Financial advisor / counselor.
Yeah. I don't know what to do because I was used to working 60 hours a week. And business owners are probably the worst. I mean, for them to step out completely of the business, they almost like die mentally, emotionally.
Yeah.
Because they were so
just dead inside.
Well, your business was 40, 50, 60 hours a week, but then you also are always thinking of it, right? And then it's gone and you don't know. It's like you don't know what to fill it back with.
Yep.
And you want to fill it with something good. So I'm like, so we back into it. One of the questions we ask when people call in and sit down with us and go through the retirement blueprint is, what are you doing for charitable contributions? Are you giving any time or money or
That's a good thought.
What are you doing? And they say, I'm doing some, I'm doing a little money at Goodwill, or I'm going to give into church. I'm giving some time here. Okay, well, we should really talk about that in the future, because we have a lot of our clients that they're in just as good shape as they are now that they were a few years ago, after, before they retired. And the reason is I think they're busy mentally, physically, and their heart is giving, right? They're like helping out the local missions, or they're helping out the rescue mission downtown, or whatever way, Agape, and they're helping people that need help. And it's like, they don't need a paycheck anymore because they have enough money. They've saved well, done well, right? And they can go and help other people. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right. And they get more out of it than getting a part-time job at Lowe's.
So I think the moral of the story, Brian, is that you can help me and my emotions and my emotional support pet and everything else I've got going on other than just my finances, because I need some more than just financial help. I need some emotional help.
Oh yeah. I can't help you with that, but I think it's getting to try to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life is tough. Like they said, I mean, you literally, some people really get depressed because they lose that identity of, I was the vice president of the bank or whatever.
I guarantee you Brian's heard it, and I'm guarantee that he will be compassionate and his team will be compassionate. Integrity Financial Planning is the name of the company. 866-2-PLAN-4 is their number. 866-TO-PLAN and the number 4. So even in retirement, we'll have expenses. We need to plan for things like housing, transportation, taxes, and health insurance. But a survey by the Society of Actuaries found there's one expense in particular that people worry about: long-term care. You might not ever need it, but it's incredibly expensive if you do. So how do you go about preparing clients for the possibility that they might need long-term care? Because that's a touchy subject.
It really is. So according to a recent survey published by the Society of Actuaries, a good 65% of pre-retirees are worried specifically about being able to afford long-term care. Mm-hmm. And they should be. Medicare generally doesn't pick it up, right? So it's not like, I'm going to have Medicare, I'll be all set. No. There's long-term care usually falls into that kind of bucket of, I need to do my own thing, but it's too expensive and I don't really want to do it. Mm-hmm. Because they'll get a quote from an insurance agent and they'll say, it's $10,000 a year. Wow. And if I don't use it, think about that. What if I don't use it and then 20 years later, I've dropped $10,000 a year, $200,000 over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And you die. Your kids didn't get that. Your spouse, if she's alive, right, didn't get that. So that's the issue, is long-term care. It's an insurance cost.
Man, that is an important decision, isn't it?
It is. No, it really is. And so what do you do, right? We had a couple came in and they're like, we're really concerned. They had saved well, but not enough for me to say, oh, yeah, you're self-insured, right? Self-insured. Somebody comes in with $10 million. Look, you don't need long-term care.
Yeah. You're good.
You're good. You're good. Right. If you go to a nursing home for 10 years at the most expensive nursing home, your spouse is still going to be fine.
But who has that? How many people have that?
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's very small. So if somebody, they came in, they had about $1.2 million in an IRA and another $200,000 in a taxable account, and they're fairly healthy in their 60s, and they said, we've got these old life insurance policies, whole life, Northwestern Mutual. They had bought all these policies, and they had, I forget what the cash value was in there, $250,000 in all these different policies. And a cash value policy is a month, it grows in there, tax deferred and tax free. But when I looked at the last few years statements, the rate of return was like 1%, because the dividends had dropped so drastically. In the 80s, they were paying 8%, but interest rates have dropped and the insurance companies are paying less. So I said, this doesn't have living benefits. And they said, what's living benefits? Okay, well, so living benefits in a life insurance policy is you can get if you have 2 activities of your daily living that you could not perform, so you couldn't dress yourself, couldn't feed yourself, right? And you're at home, right? Say Hunter's taking care of you, right? And I don't know how long that would last. You probably drive her crazy. But let's say you got somebody else to come in, right? And you had this policy, all these life insurance policies. The only way for you to help out is to take the cash value out. But in a newer type of policy, there's a living benefit rider, and you could get money from the policy and still you don't have to die to win.
Huh. Okay.
Right? And so the living benefit rider is the way to kind of look at long-term care today, because look, here are the 2 major things that are going to happen in your life that are going to be could be financial disasters to you or your loved one. Let's just guess what they are. Like long-term care, disability, that sort of thing, right? Or death.
Yeah.
So you're kind of covered with this what's called a hybrid policy today. It's a hybrid life insurance policy, and you got to be really careful to look at the numbers. They are confusing. Go to 2 or 3 different financial planners, and
that's where you come in.
Well, I'm just saying you really want to analyze it. We had someone come in from another company, and they said, "Oh, we're supposed to put $50,000 a year into this long-term or a whole life policy." And it did have living benefits. And I said, "Oh, wow, that's pretty good." Okay. And she showed me the illustration. Illustration is just all the numbers, right? So she puts
like itemization.
Yeah, okay. Like here's the money. You put $30,000 for 7 years, $210,000. And then she showed the insurance agent showed that she was going to take income. She's like, "All that money's tax free for the rest of my life," and she, showing that she lived to like 100.
Yeah.
Right? Well, when you really did the math on it, it took me a while because it doesn't show it on the illustration, which is a crime. Not. It's a crime.
Yeah.
They should be thrown in jail, but that's another story. 1% was the net rate of return. Well, yeah, it's tax-free, but you didn't really make any money.
You didn't make anything, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I bought this property for $200,000 and I sold it for $200,000. It's tax-free.
Yeah.
Because you didn't make any money.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, 1%, you would pay a little bit of tax, but it's nothing. And so you have to run the numbers. Now, here was a person making $250,000 a year who's a vice president of a company, and she was incredibly intelligent. But she doesn't do this. It's not her world. That's why she came to us.
Nobody really does except you. I mean,
right. Well, no, there's other financial planners that could do that.
I know, but I mean professionals.
Right, professionals. And so you had to, and when she looked at it, she's like, "You're right. That's not really that good of growth." I'm like, "You're right." So that's a good concept, long-term care. It is destroying. Like 3 of my 4 grandparents went into a long-term care facility. One of them almost lived 10 years in a full-blown nursing home.
Wow.
9.5 years. When the average is about 3 years, they were trying to kill her at that point, right? I mean, they were giving her drugs. Like, okay.
That is not true.
Oh, DC.
I know. Good grief, dude.
They were like,
today,
get this lady out of here.
Wells Fargo, taking on the retirement centers. You are taking on the world,
brutal.
Man. You're like Floyd Mayweather, 50-0, man.
Stop me.
Still strong. So, but seriously, this is serious business, long-term care, and it's worth having somebody else look at it. Like Brian said, it doesn't have to be Brian, but get somebody to take a look at it. Brian has a second opinion service. He's got a complimentary retirement blueprint plan. And if you have, there's only so many calls we can take during an hour, especially since it's a syndicated show and we're in several different markets. But if you've saved at least $500,000 toward your retirement, you can make the call, 866-2-PLAN-4, 866-TO-PLAN, and the number 4.
Investment advisory services offered by Integrity Financial Planning Incorporated, a registered investment advisory firm. This information is designed to provide general information about the subjects covered. You should seek advice based on your particular circumstances from an independent tax advisor, as tax laws are subject to interpretation, legislative change, and unique to every specific taxpayer's particular set of facts and circumstances. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurer. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Insurance and annuity products offered through Brian Bowen, licensed in Virginia, license number 131017.